it is nice to meet you. And the first question that I guess I'll just start off with is, who was Laura Perls for you in your experience?
Laura was, well, let's put it this way. Most of my experience was with Fritz Perls when he moved to the West Coast. And even before that, when he came out to do a dream seminar in 1961, is when I met Fritz. And then after after Fritz died, well, actually before he did, we started inviting, we meaning the Gestalt Institute of San Francisco, which I helped start. Um, he she started coming out once a year to work with our students and also the LA Gestalt Institute students. And so I knew her on those weekends. So once a year for, I don't know, 6 or 7, I'm not sure exactly how many years. So it wasn't very much contact with her. And I sat in on some of the workshops, not all of them, and met her through her work on those weekends.
Mhm.
And she stayed at my home um, some of that time until she found another home that had a bigger piano because she was a pianist and she went over to that house. But she was at my house for a while. And
Hmm.
that's where that photograph was taken.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so, how would you describe your experience of her?
Um, my experience of her is of a very powerful but diminutive woman. You know, at that time I was, much younger. And she was very gracious, very self contained. Um, and she was also very judgmental, particularly about Fritz. In fact, one of the things that was not very easy for any of us to handle was that those of us who brought her out were all trained by him, by Fritz. And she made on a number of occasions the statement that anybody trained by Fritz Perls was not a Gestalt therapist. And she said that while staying in our homes and our feeding her dinner and so forth and so on. And so, so she was also very forthright with her opinions and judgments, particularly about him. Now, I don't remember any details at this point because it was so long ago about, I mean, I can certainly see their styles being so different. You know, Fritz was, as you know, was a bit more flamboyant and used a lot of techniques, mostly in his later years, so he could get the word out, not because that's how he worked. Um, in fact, he would often say, don't use a lot of techniques unless you are stuck. But he did a lot of the techniques just so we observing would get a chance to see him work, the possibilities of what we could do. So she was quieter, she was more internal. She had a very strong presence, and she was very good at focusing with her presence when she was working with somebody. That I remember.
Hmm. And about her work, what would you say in your experience sort of characterized it, or how did you experience it?
Well, see, the problem, and that's why I almost said maybe you don't want to interview me because I don't remember.
Hmm.
And the fact that I don't remember her work, except for her ability to be present, tells me that, she wasn't doing anything to capture people's attention.
Hmm.
She was really with the person she was working with in a very sort of quiet way.
Okay. What about the influence or the transcendence of her work? How have you seen that um, play itself out?
I can't say necessarily about her,
Hmm.
but I think in terms of the Gestalt movement, which I see her as a co equal,
Hmm.
you know, the thing that to me is so interesting about the founders is that they developed this together, and it's a very egalitarian phenomenon. And I'm doing YouTube videos on the egalitarian influence in Gestalt therapy, which nobody's really paid a whole lot of attention to. And I'm trying to get people to see that. And
Okay.
so, but Laura is for sure a very strong part of that. And I know that she influenced Fritz's awareness and his development in terms of a founder, and that they really did work together in the early days.
Hmm.
I don't know if that,
And when you say egalitarian movement, can you say a bit more about that? I'm not sure if I.
well, that they as a couple, they
Mhm.
both created Gestalt therapy. It's not Fritz gets a lot of the credit because he was the only one on the West Coast. She may get more credit on the East Coast of the U.S. I don't know,
Mhm.
um, but I do know there was a war between the East and the West during the time that Laura was coming to see us and working with our students.
Mhm.
It was very much there, and she participated in that by her criticism. And but she was a co-equal founder. She added a lot to their development of all of the different things that they both brought to Gestalt therapy, as I understood it. I mean, I never talked with her personally about this, but from what I've known from him and from reading a little bit here and there about her history, that she brought certain things to Gestalt therapy, including Gestalt psychology, a lot of, I think it was it Rudolf Steiner's work, the arrhythmia, the body language, and I know that she was a very strong person and personality with him. She was no shrinking violet.
I don't know. I mean, generally, what I sort of ask is if anybody has a particular favorite story about Laura that I like to tell. I don't know if you have any that stand out. Can you think of anything else that you wanted to add?
That I wanted to add, yes, I went to Laura's memorial service in New York at the Ethical Culture Society. I don't exactly remember what year it was, late 70s, early 80s. And I was profoundly affected by their son, Stephen. I don't know if you've ever heard much about the kids or read Renata's book. She's got a book out. And I've met Stephen on two occasions, and one was at a conference that I was on a panel, and he was coming as he has a PhD in educational psych, as you probably know. And he was teaching in Albuquerque for many years. And he came to a Gestalt conference where there was a panel of some of us early Gestalt people. And I remember him sitting in the front row, and he got up and he said to the group, I finally decided it's time for me to learn what my parents have been teaching all these years. And then that was the first meeting of him. The second one was actually, didn't talk to him personally, but it was at the memorial service. And he got up and gave a very sad talk about how hard it was growing up in the family because the students of Laura's, because this was Laura's memorial, the students of Laura were more connected to her than the two kids were. And Stephen talked about how hard that was for him. And that touched me very deeply because I've also known other people who have had similar situations and the parents have been very popular and well known. I think Fritz talked about this, so this might be something of importance. He talked about the fact that Laura was from a very well-to-do family. I don't know how well-to-do, but a very cultured, well-off family in an area in eastern Germany. I've forgotten the name of the town. And where she was raised, and she was on her way to becoming a pianist. And then I guess she met Fritz. And he said that he was from a lower middle class or a working class family, and that within his family structure, he was the black sheep. So you have, he said it was sometimes difficult, him as sort of the black sheep rebel, and Laura as the sort of queen from a different class, getting together. So I don't know any more than that, but he did bring that up on a couple occasions.